Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Hey, welcome everybody. It is so great to see so many of you here. I'm Jenny Stadler. I've been singing with the Choral Arts Ensemble of Portland for over 10 years. I'm also on the board, and I'm thrilled to be welcoming you here tonight for Promises of Spring, which is CAE's spring concert. We're so excited to share some new performances tonight and some great conversations with all of you. So first off, I have to thank Paul Nelson, our pianist, longtime friend of the choir. Thank you for that wonderful intro, Paul. So everybody knows if you want more, you're going to hear from Paul actually a couple more times tonight. Secondly, I just want to thank all of you for being here. We had over 200 people sign up for this event tonight. Seriously, in this unusual year, we want to thank you all for your support and your engagement with the Choral Arts Ensemble tonight and throughout the year. We had so much fun with so many of you during our fall Suites and Solos concert, and we're just thrilled to see so many of you back with us this spring. Okay, so by now you all probably know your way around Zoom. But just in case you're not a frequent Zoom user, you're all on mute, just so you all know. So we can't hear applause or cheers, but you can still show your appreciation or say hello in a few ways. Please feel free to always use your jazz hands or throw comments in the chat box. So there's a little chat button at the bottom and you can click on that and you'll see the chat on the side. It'll open up and you can type in there. And you can use your reactions buttons to give like an applause or send someone some love. So finally, if you'd like to make a donation to the Choral Arts Ensemble this evening, you'll see a donation link pop up in that chat box. It's going to show up in just a second. That link will take you directly to our donation page, which is on our website. For those of you watching on Facebook, you can also just go to our website, which is portlandschoir.org. You can click on that support button. Every donation this year, seriously, has helped keep us afloat, and it's going to help us come back stronger. We hope later this year to be able to perform for you live again. So for those of you who've been to one of our concerts live, you know that we like to give a little context for every piece that we perform. And tonight is no different. It's my great pleasure to introduce our Assistant Artistic Director and my dear friend, Megan Elliott, who'll be carrying on that tradition by telling you a little bit about each piece that you're going to hear tonight. Thank you again for joining us tonight. And here's Megan.
Thank you, Jenny, and hello, everyone. I'm very excited about this because at a typical CAE concert, as the assistant director, you'll see me doing one of two things, singing or conducting, both of which I love. But now at long last, they're letting me speak. So buckle up and think of me as your tour guide as we experience all the great music planned for tonight. We normally put on a pops concert in February, singing styles that we might not normally in our other concerts, Broadway, opera, music from the movies, and jazz. So in honor of our pops concert, we open tonight with the iconic jazz tune, Take 5, written by Paul Desmond with lyrics by Dave and Iola Brubeck. Introduced in 1959 by the Dave Brubeck Quartet, it went on to become the best-selling jazz single of all time. We first performed Take 5 in February 2016. With its energetic and slightly off-balance feel, we thought it would be the perfect opener for a virtual concert. Featuring CAE accompanist Jennifer Creek Hughes, please enjoy Take 5.
Won't you stop and take a little time out with me? Just take 5, just take 5. Stop your busy day and take the time out to see. I'm alive, I'm alive. Though I'm going out of my way, just so I can pass by each day. Not a single word do we say. It's a pantomime and not a play. Still an hour runs off in me. I feel tingles down to my feet. Then your smile is touch too discreet, sends me on my way. Now wouldn't it be better not to be so polite? You could offer a light. Start a little conversation now, it's alright.
It's impossible for me not to smile while listening to that song. And if I close my eyes, I can almost imagine being all dressed up at a swanky party with fancy drinks and live music, despite the fact that none of us are really going to big parties right now. But that's the beauty of music. It can transport you anywhere. Another staple of our February Pops concerts is featuring members of the choir in solos or small groups. Sticking with the jazz theme, our next piece is the first of 2 solo performances this evening and features soprano Sylvia Nelson, who has been with the group since 2003. She'll be singing The Gift, a great bossa nova jazz standard made famous by Edie Gourmet on her 1963 album, Blame It on the Bossa Nova. She is accompanied by her husband, Paul Nelson, who is the accompanist for the Multnomah Athletic Club Balladeers and has also played for CAE events, concerts, and rehearsals.
No string of pearls and a velvet glove. The gift I bring you is the gift of love. No ring of gold, but a dream to enfold when all the stars have flown and we're alone. The gift of love is a precious thing, a touch of magic on a day in spring. The golden dream every dreamer pursues. Remember, darling, never refuse the gift of love. For love can be a melody that lingers, or slip like April wine right through your fingers. So kiss me sweet till our secret star illuminates the way to Shangri-La. Whatever fate may befall, all I know is that the gift of love is the greatest gift of all. A touch of magic on a day in spring. The golden dream every dreamer pursues. Remember, darling, never refuse the gift of love. For love can be a melody that lingers, or slip like April wine right through your fingers. So kiss me sweet till our secret star illuminates the way to Shangri-La. Whatever fate may befall, all I know is that the gift of love is the greatest gift of all.
That was fabulous. Thank you, Sylvia and Paul. My feet were just going under my desk. That was awesome. So as a singer at CAE, one of the greatest joys that we have is the chance to work directly with living contemporary composers, to sing their works with them, conducting us or working with us in rehearsals. It means so much to us as singers when they can tell us what their intentions were when they were writing a composition, or let us know how we should be interpreting a phrase. In the past, we worked with local composers through our partnership with the Cascadia composers. And we've also flown in composers from other parts of the country, like Ola Yalo, Moses Hogan, and Jake Runstead. It's our pleasure tonight to have with us an exciting and innovative composers who we will be working with in the next year. It's actually, I find it a little ironic because with this kind of Zoom event, we have the opportunity to bring in people from all over the world. And this next super exciting composer actually lives here in Portland, Oregon. So I'd now like to invite our artistic director, David DeLizer, to join us to introduce tonight's special guests, the amazing Sydney Guillaume.
Thank you, Jenny. A bit about our special guest. Sydney is a composer, conductor, and clinician, originally from Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and as Jenny said, now living here in Portland. His music has been performed around the world and has been critically acclaimed for its impressive maturity and striking melodic distinction, which the Miami Herald says. And his works are just full of heart and passion, and many foster an awareness of his native Haitian culture. In 2016, he was inducted into the 1804 list of Haitian American changemakers. This is a prestigious list named in honor of Haiti's Year of Independence that recognizes Haitian Americans in the United States who have demonstrated outstanding achievement and success in their profession and proven themselves to be forces for change in their communities. In 2017, he was honored by the top music school in Haiti for his great contribution in the expansion and the promotion of the music and culture of Haiti around the world. He's been commissioned by renowned choirs such as the Grammy Award nominated Seraphic Fire, the Westminster Chorus, the University of Miami Frost Chorale, and the Nathaniel Dett Chorale. He just had a new commissioned work called Courage premiered last week by the Gustavus Choir of Gustavus Adolphus College in Minnesota. Go Gophers. And has another premiere coming up next month of a work commissioned by the Boston Children's Chorus called Finding a Home. The Choral Arts Ensemble is very excited to be collaborating with Sydney on concerts of his music, tentatively scheduled for October 2022. And we certainly hope to add our name to the list of choirs who have commissioned new works from him. We're also going to make him conduct, and we promise we'll mostly do what he wants us to do, because we can't ever do what any conductor ever wants us to do. So please welcome Sydney Guillaume.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Well, welcome, Sydney. You're just a few miles from here, but it's so wonderful to talk with you, and we've talked a bit before. So I thought it would be interesting if you can start and tell us a little bit about your work and your career path. When did you start singing? When did you know you wanted to compose?
Well, I'll start with the last part first. I wanted to I knew I wanted to compose when I was in high school. I started with writing piano solos, and I went to a school that was a magnet school. My focus was on piano. Singing was not in the radar for me at all. But my junior year of college, the choir of my high school was invited to sing in a festival in New York at Carnegie Hall, and they opened it up to the piano students. And I just wanted to go on a trip to New York, so I'm like, okay, I'll sing for that. And the very first time I sang with the choir was actually on the first concert was actually on stage at Carnegie Hall, and it was an amazing experience for me. And I said, okay, I'm going to make sure I keep singing in choir. I fell in love with choir at that moment, of course.
Wow, that's a great story. We all unfortunately don't have great premieres like that in our choral singing, but what a wonderful story. So at some point you obviously moved from singer to composer. So what was the impetus for not just singing other people's music, but wanting to write your own music?
Actually, I was actually avoiding writing my own music for choirs or for singers, because I didn't think I would be great at putting text and music together. And my junior year of college, my composition teacher, he knew that I was avoiding that, and he like tricked me pretty much into writing my first choral piece. You know, he first started to write a 16 bars piece, you know, to take to my composition lesson. And I did that, and then he's like, great, now you got that piece has a lot of potential, make it a full piece. And I wrote my first piece, Kalinda, that way, and it uses a lot of Haitian rhythms and nonsense syllables, you know. And yeah, I composed that piece, that year, the choir at the University of Miami, where I went to school, was invited to sing at Carnegie, not Carnegie Hall, at the National ACDA conference, which is the biggest stage you could possibly have to have a piece performed. And I had my piece performed at a conference there, and started my career in choral music. But it started with me like avoiding writing choral music.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And Kalinda is such a wonderful piece. And you're right. The for our audience that may not know, ACDA is the American Choral Directors Association, which many choral directors around the country belong to. So you're right. What a huge stage to make your debut in front of people all over the country and the world that will then want to program your music. And I think and they are, and they do. So that's great. We've, in some of our previous conversations, you've mentioned how important texts are in your composing. So I'm curious, what texts draw you, or how do you go about setting or just deciding what text you are going to use for your music?
With text, it's I've been blessed to have the opportunity to work with my father. So at this point in my career, with my father is my main lyricist. He's written over 40 works for me, like over 40 texts for me that I set to music. Since my very first piece, Kalinda, actually, I remember asking my father, hey, can I just have a paragraph? You know, I have this assignment for college, to write a piece, and he would text to Kalinda. And then of course I went back to him, I'm like, can you make it longer? Because my teacher says I need to make it a longer piece. And since that first piece, we've been collaborating together. And so I've always enjoyed working with a living poet, of course, and there are times, I mentioned like about 40 pieces with my father, but there are times where I've collaborated with other people, like that, usually when my father has writer's block, or like when I don't fall in love with the text, like for instance, I wrote a piece Carnaval, and the first version that I had was from my dad. It was a little too intellectual. My dad is a deep thinker, he writes wonderful texts that I've enjoyed, but there are times I'm like, I want like a party text, it's about Carnival. So I've had to collaborate with other people, which has been wonderful. Yeah, but text is a very important part for me.
Sure, of course. That's a great story. You have music that's in Latin, in English, in French Creole. How do you talk about your language choices when you are looking at different texts?
I've been able to actually write in my two native languages. The most French and Haitian Creole are my two native languages. And I only have two pieces in English at this point. But my father, since he's my lyricist, he writes in French or Haitian Creole. Sometimes we combine the two, and there are times it's just in one language or the other. So, but I've been able to actually use all three languages.
That's great. That's great. I mentioned a couple premieres that you've had in just last week, and coming up, one Courage with its text about unity in a time of division, and Finding a Home with its text about displacement, and as the title says, finding a home and the journey of finding a home. And both of those texts have a very strong social justice message. I'm just wondering how you arrived at those specific texts, since they are kind of your most recent pieces.
Sure. My father, his texts always have a great message of peace, of unity, of justice. For Courage, like with every commission, the conductor usually gives me a theme. And for Courage, the conductor wanted a theme of unity. This is for the Gustavus Choir that you mentioned that they premiered it last week. They actually the original conversation that I had with the conductor, he said the piece would premiere on their tour, which was supposed to happen this past January. And he knew that it would be at a time when a new president would be inaugurated, whoever it would be, there would be most likely division in the country. So he said a piece that had a message of unity. So I turned to my father, and my father gave me this wonderful text, which at first was called Main en Main, which means hands together, but I love, there's one line in there that talks about courage, and the idea of courage is such an important part for us, like to get out of our comfort zone, and talk about difficult issues. And so that became the title of the piece. And it's there's always a great message of unity and justice in my father's text. And for Finding a Home, it was for the Boston Children's Chorus. It's premiering next month, and it talks about displacement. And as somebody who is from Haiti, who moved to the States, I definitely was displaced, and I know what it feels to like feel out of place and not belong. I didn't speak English when I moved to the States, and so it's a different culture, of course, here compared to Haiti. So this piece talks about the journey, and it says that home is not confined to a place; it's a community, it's a warm embrace, and it's a powerful text that hopefully helps people see immigration that differently.
That's great. Thank you. So your music is very reflective of your native country. How do you, I mean, it's one thing to say that, it's another thing to actually do it. So how do you put that into your music?
Just having the text, for instance, in Creole, usually a lot of my pieces are in Creole, just that I think creates the like Haitian Creole feel to it, I would say. And I use a lot of Haitian rhythms in my music. Since my very first piece, Kalinda, like I've been using traditional Haitian rhythms, and yeah, it's I feel like Haiti doesn't have a lot of Creole music, so I've been able to use this wonderful platform and create Creole music for Haiti. But not all of my pieces are about Haiti or in Haitian Creole, for instance. Some of them are very different, like Finding a Home. Actually, Finding Home has a little bit of Creole in there.
That's okay.
But I find like I mean, it's just part of me. Like, it's my heritage, so it naturally comes through my music. So, yeah.
Sure, that makes sense. So this is always a question I like to ask of composers that they don't always like, but I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite piece that you've composed?
It is a difficult question because they're all of my children. It's like, how do I pick one over the other, right? But there's one that I whenever I get asked that question, I say it's still to this day, it's still my favorite piece. It's my piece Dominus Vobiscum, which is actually Latin for the Lord is with you, and it's actually, that's the only part that's in Latin. The whole text is actually in Haitian Creole. And my father wrote this wonderful text, and it talks about the divine presence inside of all of us, and in the process of seeking and asking and searching, we'll find that presence. And it's one of those pieces that I turn to, to find peace, solace. And I've had a lot of conductors tell me like their connection to that piece, and the singers also have written to me also telling me how much that piece has helped them in their life. So it's a very special piece for me. I feel like I was just a vehicle and the piece came through me, and it's been a piece that has opened a lot of doors for me too in so many ways. So
that's wonderful. So the companion question is, what's the piece that gave you the most trouble, that you had the most difficulty finding, if you will?
I feel like all of my pieces, probably except for Dominus Vobiscum, which just like I feel like just came to me. But pretty much every piece is always and also my piece Kalinda too. Like I was having a fun time writing it, my very first choral piece. But I feel like they all, I go through some. It's a journey. I go through some challenges with all of them. But the one that comes to mind is my piece Alleluia Amen. I think the reason why it was a hard one for me is because I arrived at the ending and thought I was done with the piece. I was excited, because based on the length the conductor wanted the piece to be. And I was packing my bags, getting ready to go on a trip to Thailand, after like spending so much time with this piece. Like I was about to go on vacation, and I got an email from the conductor. He said, "You arrived at the ending a little too early, I think." And I was like, "Oh no!" So I had to. Once I got over the like, "Oh no, I have to go back and work on this more," I was actually in Thailand, and I spent a day just reworking the ending, and I'm actually happy I did, because I like the new ending better than the first ending. So, but I remember the feelings that I had when I had to go back and rework the piece. But my goal is to always make sure that the client, the conductor or the choir is happy with the work. So like I had to go back and rework it, and I'm glad I did. And he was right. I felt like I was too ready to go on a trip to Thailand, and and I arrived at the ending too early. Yeah.
Sure. Nothing like a deadline to create some inspiration. Huh?
Absolutely.
So you and your music are such an inspiration to so many singers around the world. So who inspires you?
Ooh, I get inspired by many different people. Are you referring to musically or
Sure, or
yes.
go wherever you
Okay.
want with this.
I think I would say one question that I ask myself a lot is, what would Jesus do? So that's one I think about, especially with everything that's been happening lately in the US. It's, I think about like what the line Jesus said on the cross, like, forgive them, Father, they don't know what they're doing. It has helped me like put things into perspective and try to have build more forgiveness and compassion. So I guess that's one person that I
Mhm.
into, and of course my father, like I turn to his texts, and I just, many different people inspire me.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, of course. So what's next? I mean, you just had a premiere, you have another one coming. What's down the road here for you?
I try not to think too much about what's down the road, because I have a few things lined up. Actually, I have an exciting new collaboration with one of my favorite artists, Haitian artists, Emeline Michel. She contacted me recently, and she wants me to make an arrangement for her new album, and so that's very new. And it's in. I also have a few choral commissions lined up too, and I have a few things. I just don't want to think about them. One thing at a time.
My apologies. I didn't mean to.
No, I'm also looking forward to a vacation too. I haven't had a vacation over a year.
What? What is that?
I know, right?
Well, Sydney, it's been an absolute joy to talk with you briefly tonight. We'll go ahead and drop your website link into the chat here for anyone that wants to learn a bit more about you and your wonderful music. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for writing such incredible music. And we are just really greatly looking forward to working with you and singing that music with you conducting. So again, such a pleasure, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I'm going to turn things back over to Megan then, who will introduce our next piece. Megan.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Sydney, for joining us tonight. In my 16 years with this choir, I can tell you with certainty that our concerts with current composers have been some of the most inspiring and meaningful, and I can't wait to continue that in our work with Sydney. Turning now to more traditional concert repertoire, we feature a joyful piece that was new to the Choral Arts Ensemble, Rosephanie Powell's Arise, Beloved. Based on the Song of Solomon, with lyrics such as, "Arise, beloved, fair one, come away, for lo, the winter has passed," it is a quintessential text welcoming spring. A professor of voice at Auburn University, Rosephanie Powell has been hailed as one of America's premier women composers of choral music. We are so pleased to share this piece with you tonight and look forward to singing much more of her music in the future.
Arise,
That piece was a joy to learn and to sing, even remotely. So it will definitely be making another appearance once we're performing live again. One of the most special aspects of CAE is the strong sense of family within the group. And this family feel is not just a present aspect, it is a historical characteristic in that many of our members remain strongly connected to the group long after they have stopped singing with us. Judith Montgomery, who was with CAE for 22 years, was one of those singers. Although she retired from the group almost 20 years ago, she was what we often refer to as a pillar of CAE, both through her musicianship and leadership. Judith recently passed away on March 11th, 2021, and many of us in CAE who were fortunate enough to know her are continuing to grieve this tremendous loss. We could not let this concert go by without acknowledging the powerful influence she had on so many of us, both musically and personally. Judith was a marvelous soprano, serving as both soprano section leader and a frequent soloist throughout her tenure with CAE. She was also a superb teacher, and she served as the head of vocal studies at the University of Portland for 28 years, along with teaching out of her own private studio at home. Many CAE singers, including myself, were her students. Even after retiring from the group, she would frequently return as a guest clinician to do vocal workshops with us, and we were all the better for it. Judith's husband, Carrie, who also sang with CAE for many years, put it simply and perfectly. She loved her students and they loved her. In fact, many of them called her mom. I think a big part of this was that she was so much more than a voice teacher. She cared about us and about our lives. She believed in us, and she simply wouldn't put up with us not giving our best or striving for our full potential. In gathering feedback from many of her former students, here are some other fantastic Judithisms that beautifully describe our teacher and friend. She was a model of sophistication and poise, who could also laugh easily and shout out, "Oh, who the hell cares?" She served as a mother figure to so many of us during transitional times in our lives, teaching us not only about singing, but also about life, about handling both the joys and troubles it brings with grace and good humor. Her approach in our lessons was often, "Of course you can do it, so stop worrying and get out of your own way, and sing louder while you're at it." That may have been to me. Judith embraced us as a unique whole person and remained invested in our growth far after our time in the vocal studio ended. She undoubtedly helped me find my voice, both literally and in a profound metaphorical sense. Judith also helped me appreciate the magic of a well-made martini, which is truly a gift that can't be topped. Seriously. I knew that with her, I would always have a safe place to turn. She was the kind of woman one aspires to be. I was so homesick in college that I contemplated transferring every semester, but what I couldn't face was saying goodbye to her. So I stayed, and that made all the difference. Judith constantly dared me to step into my bigness and take up space. She loved to see her students soar. It gave her joy to watch us succeed. These testimonies are a few of the countless ways that Judith made a difference in both CAE and in the lives of many other musicians in our community. Her loss is painful, but her influence lives on in so many of us. The Choral Arts Ensemble offers our love and condolences to her wonderful husband, Carrie, and their whole family. And Judith, you are loved and missed greatly. May you rest in eternal peace. Moving back into more music, our second solo of the evening comes from Adam Johnson, a bass in the choir who has been with us for 4 years now. Adam chose a beautiful art song by Gabriel Fauré entitled Adieu, the third movement of the song cycle Poème d'un jour, or Poems of a Day, composed in 1878. The song cycle follows a relationship from beginning to end within the span of a single day. In this final movement, the relationship has run its course and both parties are going their separate ways. All that is left is the unavoidable and final farewell, without tears or passionate pleading, just the simplicity of goodbye. Adam is accompanied by Jennifer Creek Hughes.
les plus longs amours son cœur. Et je dis en quittant vos charmes son âme, presque maman de mon amour. Adieu.
Hello, everybody. I believe that we are going to be switching now to David DeLizer, who's going to be introducing the last piece tonight. So if we could switch now to David DeLizer.
Thanks, Jenny. Amazing, Adam and Jennifer. Thank you so much. You make that look so effortless, even though we know foray is anything but. So that was absolutely beautiful. Just a quick reminder, if you are so inclined, you can make a donation to the Choral Arts Ensemble at the link that will show up in the chat right about now. Boink, thank you. Or you can visit our website at portlandschoir.org. And as always, we are very grateful for your support. Normally at our final in-person concert of the year, we let you know about all our exciting plans for the next concert season. Perhaps, obviously, that's a little more difficult given our present circumstances. Well, it's certainly looking more optimistic that we will be able to have live in-person performances in the upcoming concert season. Exactly when those can start happening and when we can start rehearsing for them, which needs to happen even earlier, remains contingent on the state of the pandemic and vaccinations, CDC state and county regulations, and industry guidelines for a safe return to live in-person performances, all of which, rest assured, we are watching very, very closely. And just know that when we do invite you all back into the concert hall, your safety and the safety of the ensemble will absolutely be our first priority. In terms of what we will sing, we do have a few things we can tell you now. Some of you may recall that Rachmaninoff's stunning all-night vigil had been planned for our April 2020 concert. We were 2 rehearsals into the preparation when everything shut down last spring. Our plan is to sing that piece at one of our first, if not the first, concert back live and in person, because I'm sure that all of the singers have been diligently learning that score over the past, no, they haven't been at all, no. We also plan to pair the Rachmaninoff with a new piece called Alleluia, which is written by one of our favorite composers, Joshua Schenk. CAE is part of the commissioning consortium for this piece, and I wanted to tell you a bit more about how this piece came about. Joshua started writing this piece as more self-care, if you will, during this unprecedented time. It's a setting of the word Alleluia, which he said for him was simply about gratitude, being thankful for friends and family and music and laughter. And he also wanted to help all of our musician friends who've had their livelihoods disrupted by COVID-19. So he formed a commissioning consortium and donated 100% of the proceeds to a charity for working musicians called Sweet Relief, and in particular to a fund specifically set up for professional musicians affected by the COVID-19 crisis, church musicians, professional singers and instrumentalists, accompanists, etc. His initial goal in the consortium was to get enough choirs on board to raise $7,000 from this piece. He ended up raising over $11,000, which was really quite amazing for one composer and one piece. And as such, we felt it was very important that this piece be part of that first concert when we are back live and in person. And in April of 2022, we are planning a concert featuring the music of Minnesota composer Tim Takash, and Tim will be here to join us for these concerts. For those of you who joined us for our virtual Suites and Solos event last October, you may recall we had a wonderful live interview with him about his work and about our upcoming collaboration. As part of these concerts, we commissioned a new piece from him called Circles, based on a poem by Wendell Berry that we will world premiere at these concerts next April. So lots of exciting music planned for the upcoming season. When exactly? all of that will take place is still a bit unknown at this point. But we encourage you to watch your email and our website and social media, and we will announce more concrete plans just as soon as they become clear. Our final piece of the evening is perhaps the most dear to our hearts as an ensemble, and yet until tonight, we've never performed it publicly. The piece is a setting of an old Irish blessing, May the Road Rise Up to Meet You, set by Gary Cornell, who is a composer and organist currently living in Ohio. Many years ago, we started singing this piece at the end of every rehearsal, singing it to each other, really, as a thank you for the time we have just shared in song together, a wish for a good week ahead as we scatter to our respective lives, and until the next rehearsal, when we can be back together again, making music. It just speaks so much to the heart of choral ensemble, to the community that we share with each other and with all of you, our friends, families, and supporters. It's become such a cherished part of our rehearsal routine. And if I happen to forget at the end of rehearsal, I am reminded, none too gently, that we need to sing our final song before we end the evening. And it's never occurred to us to actually program it in a concert or sing it publicly, only because it's been such an intimate and private part of our rehearsal process. The last time we were together was our rehearsal on March 9th, 2020, almost 14 months ago. And we ended that night, as we always do, with this song, not knowing then how important and how impactful its message would be that evening. And so it became very clear as we were putting this event together that we needed to end tonight's concert with this piece and to share it and its message with all of you. Your support over the last year has meant so much, and on behalf of everyone in the ensemble, we offer our heartfelt thanks. We look forward to safely rehearsing and being together again as an ensemble, to safely welcoming you back into our performance halls, and to sharing music with you again live and in person. Until that time, we leave you with Gary Cornell's setting of an old Irish blessing.
May the rain rise to meet you. May the rains be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rains fall soft, the rains fall soft and tenderly as they meet again. May God hold you, and may God hold you, hold you in His hand. May God hold you in the palm of His hand.
Well, that just made me a little verklempt. That just made me a little teary. So thank you, everyone. Just as we close out every rehearsal with that piece, the Song of Farewell, it's also now time to close out our evening. I want to take one last moment to thank our singers and our tech crew who made this event possible, to our artistic team, to our board, and most importantly, I want to thank all of you for being here with us tonight. Farewell, be well, and may the wind be always at your back. I also wanted to let you know that we are going to be sharing the videos from this evening on YouTube and on our website in the next week, so you can watch them again if you like. And now it's my pleasure to hand the screen back to the wonderful Paul Nelson, who's going to play for a few minutes while we close out our event. Thank you again, and have a great night.